Let's resume. Take two. So this week we're going to focus on this idea of really being in the present moment, because I think sometimes it can be easy for those that are over cerebral like me at times or over analytical to think of, oh, if I just do the right thing based upon what the long-term cost will be, hooray, success will be inevitable. However, that's not how life goes. We know that there are certain things that we do in a given moment because that's what feels good. And in the moment, that is the right thing to do, even though long term we might have chosen something else, or in hindsight, we might have chosen something else. But in that given moment, we're always doing the best that we can with what we know. And I think that that's the part that we need to lean into, that we are always doing the best that we can with what we know. So, in our practice today, we're going to start building on two things. Eventually, hopefully, maybe we might experience a altered state of perception, but if we don't get there, no worries. Hopefully, we'll enjoy the journey as we go. So, as we started, we are going to be at a wall today. We've got our two blocks and our blanket and our strap, which are all optional, and I'll provide guidance on how to use those if we choose to use those. But we're going to start by standing at the wall. So make sure you've got all your props and stuff, and then bring your body to your wall space. And the first thing that you can do, it doesn't really matter if you're facing the wall or facing a ways. I just want you to find your feet. So just separate your feet about hip distance apart. Allow the arms to soften at your side. And then notice if you need to bend your knees just a little bit to find one line of connection, not where the legs are locked out, but where you can feel the connection from your pelvis through the legs, through the feet to the floor. And in this moment, I just want you to soften your gaze or close the eyes and just take 3 breaths. And the mantra, if you want to call it a mantra for today, is I am always doing the best that I can with what I know. And we'll see how that idea of just being a little bit more kind and compassionate to ourselves as we go along is helpful, and hopefully it will be. All right. As you're ready, if your eyes are closed, gently open your eyes, and we're going to turn and face towards the wall now. Now, at this point, I want you to start by just putting your hands on the wall at about shoulder height and make sure they're shoulder distance. From here, you're going to start to walk your feet back, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 footprints until you can bend your knees and you're at this sort of down dog-ish type shape. Now, with your hands on the wall, push the wall away and then draw your pelvis back. Your knees are still pretty bent. And then notice if you can draw your ears in line with your arms. And as you push into the wall, you'll isometrically, so that's without moving, you'll think of dragging your hands down to the baseboards and then lift up through your happy little armpits. Now, as you're here, just take a couple of breaths. Notice if your right hand is connecting more easily into the wall or if it's your left. Notice if your right pelvis is reaching back more than the left, and see if you can just find a sense of symmetry. And just take a breath here and just notice what you notice. Fantastic. Sandy, lift your head just a smidge. Yep. And then push your butt back from the center of your crown. Awesome. Now from here, let's go ahead and bend our knees a little bit further and then just step your right foot towards the baseboard. And when the right foot comes forward, the left foot is still super bent, or left knee may start to straighten, but you might start to feel stuff stretching on the back of your left ankle, calf. So Barbara, let's see how that feels. And then bend your front knee. Yep. And then see if you want to straighten your back leg. And so you're just paying attention to what you notice there. The closer that your foot goes to the wall, the more intense this becomes for your back leg. So you just mitigate that for you. Awesome. And if you haven't done so already, just notice what happens if you bend your back knee versus straightening your back leg. It changes where the sensation is on your calf. And then very gently bend your back knee, step your right foot back to meet your left, push the hands into the wall, isometrically draw them back, send your pubic bone back, and just notice what it feels like to be here. And then when you're ready, you're going to switch sides. So now your left foot is going to come forward. The right knee may straighten, or maybe you keep it bent, but just notice what's happening on the back of your calf. Notice what's happening in your breath. Fantastic. Great. From here, go ahead and bend the back knee if you haven't. Just notice how that changes the sensation, or straighten the leg if you haven't. And take a couple of breaths. And then as you're ready, you're going to bend the back knee, step the front foot back. Now, once you find yourself here, notice if you can maybe straighten your legs a little bit. Now, you don't necessarily need to, but just notice. And again, push the hands forward. Yep, draw the pelvis back. Great. As awkward as this sounds, you're going to bend your knees and walk yourself up to stand. Walk your feet forward and then bring your spine up to vertical. There we go. Fantastic. Cool. Now, once we're there, let's just go ahead and turn. Plant your left hand on the wall and then start to turn to your left. Awesome. Now, once you're here, again, push the wall away, draw your left ribs in, and then you can still keep turning towards your right. So left hand's in the wall and you're turning away. And the more you spread out through your fingers that are pressing into the wall and you push the heel of your hand into the wall, you might feel something happening in your arm, maybe all the way into your chest. Some of you might be able to turn your chest all the way away from the wall, like almost at 180 degrees. And you just pause and you breathe and you press into the wall, you press into the wall, you draw your front ribs back, you press into the wall. Awesome sauce. When you're ready to come out of that, you turn back towards your hand. You lower the hand down, you shake it out if you need to, and then we'll try that on the other side. So again, go ahead and put your right hand into the wall, start to push into the wall, start to turn away from your hand. And maybe you go about 90 degrees, and that's totally fine. And you spread wide through your fingers and you push into the wall. Maybe you continue to turn your body away from your hand. And again, you push into the wall. You draw your front ribs in and back, and we breathe. And we breathe, and we breathe some more. Great. And when you're ready to come out of this, you're going to turn back towards your hand and then gently release the hand down. Shake it out if you need to. Cool. Let's add on. So again, facing the wall. This time, if your hands are at shoulder height, let's see if we can just have the tips of our fingers at shoulder height. So the hands will be a little bit lower now. And then you're going to start to walk your feet back. Now, this time as we walk our feet back, we want to get our feet directly underneath where our hips would be. And you can bend your knees as much as you want. From here, again, push your hands into the wall, isometrically draw them back. And now this time you're going to draw your front ribs into your back body as you send your pubic bone back, and then send the crown of the head forward. Great. Keep all of that. Turn your right heel in, so you're almost like in a first position in ballet, and then step your left foot forward. Left foot forward. Awesome. So we've got like a warrior one position going on in our legs. Some of you will walk that left foot slightly to the left. Some of you will bring your left toes so that they're on the baseboard and you've got like a Barbie floint going on in that foot. So the toes are pointing up, but the whole ball of the foot is on the floor. Great. And then some of you will bring your forearms onto your wall. Now from here, we're going to push onto the knife edge of our back foot. That's our right foot. So you'll suddenly feel that sensation change in your calf. And then in your left knee, see if you can keep bending it forward, noticing if it can come towards the wall. And again, we're just paying attention, feeling how that's feeling on our back calf, noticing what's happening in our front ball of the foot, seeing if we can soften our shoulders and notice if we're breathing. Nice work. Barbara, can you straighten your back leg? Yep. Awesome. And then when you're ready to come out of this, you'll bring your hands back to the wall. You'll release your left toes from the wall. You'll step your left foot back to meet the right. You'll turn both feet parallel and go back to that L dog shape at the wall. Yep, that looks nice. Sandy, send your butt back a little bit. Julie, bend your knees a little bit for me. Yep, now draw your front ribs away from the floor. Aha! Now lift your armpits just a smidge, and from there, push the wall away from you. Yep. Awesome sauce. All right, let's try the other side. So now we're going to turn our left heel in. So our toes are kind of more like a, I don't know, ballet dancer. And then step your right foot forward. You might step your right foot a little bit to the right and then crawl your toes up the wall and keep the ball of the foot on the floor. From there, you can lower your forearms on to your wall. And with the back leg straight, you're going to press the knife edge of your left foot into the floor. You're going to bend into your front knee. And here, let's see if we can internally rotate our back leg. So think of lifting the inner thigh back behind you. That will allow your outer left hip to come forward. And then you can allow the right knee to come forward just a smidge more. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. Awesome sauce. That looks good, Robin. That looks good, Laura. Good, Julie. Good, Barbara. Good, Sandy. All right, when you're ready to come out of this, hands come back to the wall. You release your toes from the wall. Step the right foot back, turn the left foot parallel, and find yourself once again in that L dog shape at the wall. Now, at this point, we'll notice that you might find that you can actually maybe straighten your legs a bit more and maybe send your pubic bone back a little bit more. Nice work. All right. From here, let's go ahead and walk our feet forward and bring ourselves up to vertical. Cool. All right, this next one's not going to be so much fun, but we'll see how it goes. Julie, is that a wall in front of you right now? Thumbs up? Yep, cool. I want everybody to grab one of your blocks and you're going to turn around and put your back to your wall. I hope you know where you're going with this, and I'm sure you probably don't like where we're going with this. So we're going to grab one of our blocks. Okay, we're going to bring our back to the wall first. Back to the wall, blocks in the hand. And I apologize in the beginning, this is not going to be fun. We're going to start to walk our feet forward and slide our butt down the wall. Ideally, we're trying to find ourselves at a 90-degree angle in our knees, ankles, hips. And then that block's going to go right in between your inner thighs. Now, your thighs are your own hip distance apart. So I have my block on the widest setting. You might have yours more narrow, or sorry, I have the medium setting, but you might have yours more narrow or more wide. You pick which one works for you. You're going to squeeze that block for dear life. You're going to draw your front ribs in and back. And you'll notice that suddenly this has become a lot more intense than every other shape we've previously visited. And so you're going to pause and you're going to breathe and you're going to pause and you're going to breathe. And we are doing the best that we can with what we know. And we're doing fantastic work here for 3, for 2, and for 1. Now, you have to get out of this wall shape as best as you can. I personally like bringing my hands to the wall, pushing the wall away, and sort of shifting my weight forward. You might wiggle yourself out the same way we came in. Great. Let's go ahead and remove that block, put it down, and come back to face the wall. Okay, so this time you're going to put your hands or bend your elbows, flex your wrists, and this is the distance that we want our hands. So you're going to put your hands at that height on the wall, and then from there start to walk your feet back. Now you'll notice that we're suddenly in a much more L-shaped type shape. Sandy, walk your feet forward 1 inch. Bend your knees. And then see if you can push the wall away from you and then isometrically draw it down. Now from there, work to straighten your legs. Aha, cool. So we're just focusing on what's happening. Oh, that looks great, Barbara. What's happening in our back. And you're just going to pause here and you're going to breathe here. Great. Cool. Let's turn our right heel in so our back foot is externally rotated, and then step your left foot forward. Awesome. Now this time, let's see how far your toes can be on the floor, or you can curl them up if you want. But we're going to take Virabhadrasana 1 almost here. So you're going to push down into your back foot and continue to bend forward into your left leg. Now from here, I want you to see if you can keep that back foot engaged and start to walk your hands up just a bit. So now your spine's more upright. Now, as we're here, you might have noticed that the sensation is now changed to the top of your thigh of the back leg. And so we're going to see how that works if we walk our hands maybe up to shoulder height. From here, let's stay and pause and breathe. And some of you will just stay right here and root down through your feet. You'll draw up through your pelvis, and then maybe you'll reach your right arm a little higher on the wall, and maybe you'll reach your right arm into the sky, into the air. And you're just pausing. Left hand is still pushing into the wall. Left knee is bent. Right foot is pushing down. Maybe right arm is reaching up. Fantastic. If the right arm went high, draw the right hand back to the wall, draw it back to meet your left, and then start to walk the hands down a little bit, bringing them back to wherever you initially had them, and then step yourself back to that L-dog shape. Turn the right foot parallel and just notice what you notice between the sides. Awesome sauce. All right, let's go ahead and try the other side. So we'll turn our left heel in. Heel step your right foot forward. Again, toes are either down or curled. It's totally up to you. And then again, push into the back foot, bend into the front knee, and start to bring your spine a little bit more vertical as you walk your hands up to perhaps shoulder height. Again, we can stay here. We want to think of really rooting down through our feet. That internal rotation is happening in that back inner thigh. And then maybe you start to crawl your left hand forward on the wall and maybe up into the air. But we're just pausing and we're breathing, we're bending into that front knee. We're seeing how we're going here. Nice work. Awesome. When you're ready to come out, if that left hand lifted, it comes back to the wall. It draws back down to meet the right. Both hands crawl down just a little bit. You step your right foot back. You turn your left foot parallel, and you find yourself once again into that L-dog shape. Nice work. I'll walk your feet forward just an inch for me too. Yep, awesome. Now from here, let's go ahead and bend our knees, walk our feet forward, and come up to stand. Or just push off. That works too, Sandy. Cool. Now we're going to face the wall. Some of you will be happy to have a handle in front of you. Some of you will be happy to find a door crease, whatever is going to work for you. We're going to push into the wall first, though, and just see how that feels. And then shift your weight over to your right foot. Lift your left foot up. Just take a couple of ankle circles here. And I want you to notice that the more you can push into the wall, it feels like your weight comes forward and it starts to give you a little bit of core work that's happening here. So that's totally fine. Awesome sauce. Now from here, I want you to root down into your supporting leg. So that's your right leg, and see if you can lift up through your crown a little bit more. And then you're going to start to crawl your right fingers up the wall and maybe up into the air so they're in alignment with your crown. So now we're in what we would normally call bird dog, or you can call it mountain climbers, but we're in that same position, and just notice that there's a little bit more work going on. Nice work. If the right hand is lifted, draw the right hand back to the wall, draw it to meet the left. Go ahead and bend your left knee, draw your left foot back behind you, grab your left foot with your left hand, and just take a little bit of a quad stretch. Draw the knees together. You can still push into the wall if you'd like. You're drawing your front ribs in and back, and that heel pretty close to your pelvis. Nice. All right, let's go ahead and release that. Both hands on the wall, both feet down, hip distance apart. Again, transfer your weight into your left leg. Float your right knee up, flexing at the hip, flexing at the ankle. Again, happy to stay here. This is enough core work by just pushing the wall away from you, rooting down into your left foot. Some of you might crawl your left fingers forward and then maybe reach them up the wall and maybe even up into the sky. Again, we're pushing down, or rather pushing down into our left foot, pushing forward into the right hand, lifting up through the left. Awesome. Very gently draw that left hand back to the wall. Draw the left hand down to meet the right. Swing your right leg back behind you. Grab the right foot with your right hand. Again, take a moment to make sure your knees are towards each other. The tailbone lengthens down. Your heel comes towards your pelvis. And you just pause and you breathe. Awesome sauce. Gently release that leg. Okay, now this is the one where if you want to grab onto something, you can, or you can just keep your hands on the wall. We're going to walk our hands down one hand print. We're going to shift our weight to our right leg. Float your left leg up parallel, so one-legged Tadasana. Now bend your right knee, cross your left ankle over the top of your right thigh, and start to send your tuchus back behind you. At this point, some of you might put your forearms onto the wall if that is something that you can do. Some of you will keep your hands on the wall. Wherever you are, you're bending into your right knee. You're lifting your left knee, left hip, and playing with that sensation that's happening in your outer left hip. Nice work. When you're ready to come out of this, you'll bring your hands back to the wall. You'll bring your spine up to vertical. You'll bring your left leg parallel to the floor. Awesome sauce, or perpendicular rather. And then release that down. If you need to shake things out, shake things out. And then when you're ready, we'll try the other side. So again, hands at the wall, shoulder height. Walk them down about one hand print or maybe half a hand print. Now shift your weight to your left leg, float your right leg up. Start to bend your left leg, cross the right ankle over the top of the left thigh. Send your pelvis back behind you like we did in that downward facing L-dog shape. And maybe you can bring your forearms to the wall, maybe not. But we're gonna push your pelvis back, bend into our left leg, and play or notice with how high your right knee is in comparison to the floor. And you just pause and you breathe, and you pause and you breathe. Nice work. All right. When you're ready to come out, hands come back to the wall, come back up, leg is parallel, and then release the leg down. Cool. All right, let's move on. So let's bring our right foot or left foot to the mat or to the wall. So turn to your left, bring your left foot flush to the wall. And we want to make sure it's completely parallel. Awesome sauce. And then you're going to separate your feet about 3 feet apart. Cool. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to externally rotate our foot that's away from the wall. So for most of you, that should be your right leg. And then you're going to start to bend into your right knee. Now you'll notice if you want to crawl your toes forward and away from the wall in order to find your warrior two. Awesome. And so let's just keep our hands on our hips for a moment. You will walk your front foot forward as far as you need to. Push into your back knife edge of your left foot, and then see if you can draw those points together. So you're pushing your left foot into the wall. You're dragging the left foot towards the right. You're pushing down into your right heel, and you're dragging your right foot towards the left. And then once you feel like you've got all of that sorted, let's see if you can internally rotate the top of your left thigh a little bit more. And that'll maybe turn your pelvis a little bit to the right, and that's okay. And then if you'd like, you'll flourish out the arms. Now, depending upon how long your limbs are, you may or may not be able to straighten the back arm. I've got really long limbs and a short torso, so that's not too difficult for me. But if that's not happening for you, that's totally fine. Awesome. Now, take a breath. Notice if you can soften anything in your shoulders and maybe deepen the bend into the front knee. Fantastic. You can stay right here. You might choose to lower your right forearm onto the top of the right thigh. You might then extend the left arm alongside the ears. You might even decide, hey, you know what? This is easy. I'm going to bring my hand to the floor. You can do that too, but you're just paying attention. You're noticing that you can root and press into the wall with your back heel. You can draw your tailbone down. You can ripple your ribs under. Awesome. And then when you're ready to come out, you'll return to warrior two. You'll bring your hands to your hips. You'll straighten your front leg. You'll turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat. Fantabulous. Now from here, we really want to make sure both feet are parallel. You're going to push out and super wide through your pinky toes and then lift up through your heart. And from here, we'll start to hinge forward at our hips. Now, some of you might find that once you get here, your blocks hopefully are somewhere close by. And so you're like, yay, maybe you'll put your hands on your blocks. Maybe you'll put your hands on the floor. Some of you will just bring your forehead down towards the floor and maybe just take a couple of breaths here in Prasarita Padottanasana. And you just pause and you breathe and you pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. Nice work. Robin, can your front foot, so I guess this is your left foot, can you turn it more parallel? Nope. So turn your toes more towards the camera. Or more toward, there you go. Yep. Does that feel okay on your ankle? Okay. And then you just pause and you breathe. And then when you're ready to come up, we'll go ahead and inhale, halfway lift. We'll bring our hands underneath our shoulders. If you need to, bring a slight bend into your knees. Push into the wall, push isometrically into the opposite foot too, hands to hips, and then inhale, come all the way up. Nice work. Now this is going to be awkward, I'm not going to lie. I use the wall on this first one. So you might bring your hand to the wall in order to release your feet back to center. If you're like, I don't need the wall, then just walk your feet together. Great. Turn around and go to the other side. So now most of you will not be able to see me, so we'll hope that this works. So let's go ahead and we will bring our opposite foot to the wall. So for you guys, that should be your right foot. Make sure it's parallel to the wall. And then go ahead and step your left foot out about, I don't know, 3 feet or so. From here, you'll externally rotate your left foot so your toes point to the short edge of your mat and then start to bend into your front knee. And then you'll wiggle walk your front foot forward, and you might need to go a little right or left depending upon your hips until you can find a nice stable bend into that front knee for you. Awesome. From here, again, push your ankle or your heel that's into the wall. So that's your right heel. Push it into the wall. Internally rotate your right thigh. Your hips might come a little bit to the left, and that's okay. Draw your outer left hip back, and then push down into both feet and draw them towards your midline. If you're happy there, you can flourish out the arms. Maybe your back arm is completely straight and pressing into the wall. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice how that's going. Now, if you're happy here, stay here. Otherwise, you might lower your left forearm onto the top of your left thigh and reach your right arm alongside your ears. You might choose to stay here in this extended side angle, or maybe your bottom hand comes to the mat and you pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice and you just pause and you breathe. Nice work. Keep drawing your under ribs forward. So for you guys, that is your left ribs under. Awesome. And then when you come up, or when you're ready, you'll inhale and come up to warrior two. Bring your hands back to your hips. Go ahead and straighten your front leg. Turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat, or I guess parallel to the wall. Now from here, you might notice that you can actually internally rotate your, your foot away from the wall even more, and then you'll hinge forward at the hips. Well, that's funny. I'm facing away from you guys and doing the opposite, so I'm just slightly confused. So hopefully your butts, we're all of our butts are now facing the camera. That's fun. Okay, and you'll just take a couple of breaths here. Press up to the knife edge of your pinky toes and just notice what you notice. Awesome. Fantastic. When you're ready to come out of this shape, go ahead and walk your hands underneath your shoulders. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Really push your outer foot into the wall and imagine the other foot is doing the same thing. Bring your hands to your hips and then with a flat back, come up. Great. When you're ready to come out of this, again, your hand can come to the wall and you can use that as support to walk your feet together. Nice work. All right. Turn to face the wall once again. And we'll just check in and notice how we're doing. Great. And then one more time of that wall squat. So grab your block. Bring your backs to the wall. Start to walk your feet away from your wall until your knees and your ankles and your hips are at a 90-degree angle. And then slide that block in between your inner upper thighs. And now this time as we hug into our block, we're going to reach your arms forward like happy little zombies. And some of you will just stay here, imagining that you are, well, turn your palms to face each other and imagine that you're squeezing a block between your hands. Some of you will stay right there. Some of you will start to reach your hands forward and perhaps up and overhead. And you'll notice that you want to keep drawing your front ribs down and back, and that suddenly makes this a lot more challenging. So now our upper body's having to work and our lower body's having to work. And we'll breathe here for 3. We'll breathe here for 2. We'll breathe here for 1. When you're ready, hands come down, and then you're going to release yourself from the wall in whatever way works for you. Nice work. All right. Go ahead and release the block, and then turn around and face the wall once again. Okay, again, we're going to bend our elbows, flex our palms, bring your hands to the wall. And then you're going to start to walk your feet back until we make that L shape with our body. Cool. Now this time, make sure your hands are shoulder distance apart. It becomes a little harder if they're not. And then push the wall away from you. As you push the wall away, notice that you can isometrically draw the hands down so they won't go anywhere. Lift up through your armpits, then send your pubic bone back and draw your front ribs in. Now, I would encourage you to step your right foot a little bit closer to your left so it's underneath the middle of your body. And then from there, you'll reach your left foot long and back. And we're finding ourselves in a warrior 3 position. Now, from here, I would encourage you to push the wall away again. Reach back through your left heel and notice that length that's happening along your spine. And then notice if you can lift your ears in line with your arms, and we'll breathe for 3. If you need to bend your supporting leg at all, please do. Breathe for 2 and breathe for 1. Nice work. From here, lower your left foot down to meet the right. Step your right foot back to hip distance apart if it came into the midline. And just take a moment to pause here in that L dog shape. Nice work. All right, let's try the other side. So you might walk your left foot slightly to the right, so it's under the middle of your body. Then reach your right foot straight back. Push your hands into the wall. Reach back through your right heel. And then notice, that looks good, guys. If you can lift a little higher through your inner right thigh. Awesome sauce. And when you're ready, lower the right foot back. Separate your feet back to hip distance apart. Cool. This may not be fun. We'll see how this goes. You'll inhale and roll your tailbone forward and see if you can find your body in one long line. So we're at like a wall plank position. Our body is inverted. Body is inverted. So roll from your tailbone all the way to your crown until your body is in this plank position. Your heels are still ideally touching the mat. Yep. Now, once you're here, draw your front ribs into your back body and then see if you can lengthen your tailbone down and notice that that tones the core just a little bit. Isometrically pull your hands down and reach your sternum forward and up. Awesome. Now, from here, lift your heels and lower your heels. And you'll notice that this is changing the amount of weight that you feel in your wrists, the amount of weight you feel in your shoulders. And we're just trying to keep our torso, our spine, one long line. Awesome. When you're ready, go ahead and go back to your L-dog shape. So pelvis goes back. And then you'll bend your knees and walk your feet towards the wall. Bring your spine up to vertical. Cool. Did that go okay? Yeah, okay. All right, this next one is weird. Turn to face, turn to place your left foot against the wall. And for this one, some of you might want a block between your inner upper thighs, or you might not. It really depends upon your pelvis. And with our left arm along the wall, you're going to crawl your left arm straight up. Okay. Now, we want to see, we're going to take Indulasana, which is a side bend. So with our left arm straight up, we can now push our left hip into the wall. You see that you got that space there. So Barbara, step your feet a little closer together so they're hip distance apart. Yep. And now with our hip pressing into the wall and our left arm reaching up, we can bring our right hand to our right hip. And you can actually start to lean away from the wall. And you'll want to draw your tailbone straight down. You'll want to draw your front ribs in and back. And you just reach out through your left arm. And the more you go, the more you'll feel, but more is not always better. So you choose based upon how your body feels. And we're just lengthening down through the tailbone. We're rooting into our left foot, reaching out through our left arm. Nice work. When you're ready to come out, you root down through the legs, you engage the core, you come back up, and then go ahead and release that left arm down. Wiggle it out, shake it out if you'd like. And then we'll try that on the other side. So now you'll bring your right outer hip to the wall. You'll keep your feet about hip distance apart. Again, if you've got that block in between your thighs, you can keep that there. And then you'll crawl your right arm up the wall. Bring your left hand to the hip, and then start to push your pelvis into the wall just a little bit and reach up, bend overhead, and towards the center of your space. Now, again, we're lengthening down through the tailbone. We're drawing our front ribs in and back, and we're finding a nice long side body stretch happening, I guess, for you on your right side. Nice work. When you're ready to come out, you root down through the feet, you engage the core, you come back up. Go ahead and lower your right arm down. Shake that out if you need to, like to, want to. And then let's move on. Okay. So for some of you, I would encourage you to plant a block towards the outside edge of your mat. We're going to start with your left hip towards the wall. So the block will be slightly behind you. Great. Step your left foot to the wall once again. So you're pushing the left outer edge of the heel to the wall. And then step your right foot about 3 feet apart. Now this time I want you to turn your left toes in a little bit. So now it's just your heel. It's not the whole knife edge of the foot. It's just the heel. And then we're going to turn out our right toes. So the toes are pointing towards the short edge of your mat. Bring your hands to your hips. And like you are sassy as can be, I want you to shift your hips back towards the wall behind you. Now you can root down through your heel and you notice that. And then if you're a hyperextender, I want you to keep a slight bend in your front leg. From here, we're going to take a right hand and crawl it down our shin. And maybe you grab your block instead. You're like, fantastic, that's perfect. Great. Now, we're going to keep bending. So you're pressing from your right sit bone down into your right big toe. Pull your right kneecap up to your right hip. Push your left heel down, and then push down into your right hand. Draw your right ribs under, and then some of you might reach your left arm up towards the sky for Uttita Trikonasana. Some of you might decide to turn your palm to face away from the wall and reach it alongside your ears. And then you'll take this long, fun, steady breath. And we pause and we breathe. And you notice what you notice. Particularly notice what's happening to your tailbone. Is your tailbone coming forward towards that inner left thigh? And if so, what does that do to your back? What does that do to the front of your left hip? Nice work. All right. When we're ready to come out, the arm will slice forward like pizza. You'll bend your front knee into warrior two. Aha! And then we'll go ahead and straighten our front leg long, draw our hands to our hips. Now, this time, if that block's still there, you might want to push it back a little bit. We're going to turn our heels in and our toes out. And then we're going to bend our knees and slide our hands down our thighs and pop a squat and say, hello, goddess pose / horse. And for this first one, I'm not really too concerned with what you do. I find it feels very nice to just lock out my arms and find the elongation happening in my spine and my low back, and really to just sort of settle into the support of the structure of my bones. And so I just pause and I breathe. And I pause and I breathe. Some of you might stay here, some of you might move around, but I'm not really concerned with what you're doing so much on this one. Whew. All right, we're ready to come out. We'll go ahead and straighten our legs. Turn both feet parallel to the short edges of your mat. And then if you'd like, you can hop or step your feet together. Hooray! All right, we're gonna try all of that on the other side. I'll try to keep my rights and lefts good, but I can't promise that. We'll start by bringing our block to the outside edge of our mat. Your right foot will be into the wall, and then you'll step your left foot about 3 feet apart. Fantastic. Start with turning your right toes in, so internal rotation just a little bit, and then you'll externally rotate your left foot. That's the front foot. From here, with your hands on your hips, let's first do this. I want you to push down into your feet, draw your feet towards each other, and then shift your pelvis back to the wall as sassy as can be, long, straight line. From there, crawl your fingers down your shin. Maybe you bring them onto the block. Maybe you don't. Fantastic. Now, once you're there, again, push down into the knife edge of your right foot. Your tailbone will naturally start to come towards your inner right thigh. Then from your left sit bone, press it down into your left big toe. And again, if you're hyper flexible, keep engaging the kneecap up with a slight bend in the front leg. Now, from here, you'll draw your ribs under. So those are the left ribs. They're coming under. Push down into your left hand and maybe reach your right arm up towards the sky. If you're happy here, stay here. Fantastic place to be. Otherwise, you might turn your palm away from the wall and then reach your fingertips towards the middle of your space. And again, the underside ribs are coming under. You're pushing down into your feet and that hand that's on the floor. You're lengthening your tailbone to the inner right thigh. And oh, wait, are you breathing? Are we being very compassionate and generous with our breath? On your next in-breath, you'll go ahead and bend the front knee, slice your arm back and return to warrior two. Hooray! Go ahead and bring your hands to your hips, straighten your front leg long. If you need to move that block, remove that block and turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat. Now from here, again, you're going to turn your heels in, your toes out, and you're going to bend your knees and pop a squat. Now you might start as we did before with your hands on the tops of your thighs. You might take a rotation. So maybe you draw your right elbow towards your inner left thigh. Maybe you take it to the other side. Yep. Fantastic. Maybe you come back to center and you just hang out there for a little bit. And then, of course, we're going to do this. Bring your hands to heart center. And we're going to pause and we're going to breathe. We're going to see how this goes. And you'll notice that maybe your inner thighs and your backs of your hamstrings and your glutes are starting to work. And are you breathing? Fantastic. When you're ready, go ahead and straighten the legs. Turn your feet parallel to the short edge of your mat. And then hop or step your feet together. Yay, we did it. All right, let's go ahead and turn to face the wall once again. Cool. Let's bring our hands on to, well, bend your elbows. So at that 90-degree angle, and then bring your hands back to the wall. And then we're going to step ourselves back to our L dog shape. Okay, now in the L dog shape, this should feel like home to some extent. So I really want you to push your hands into the wall, isometrically draw them down the wall. If you need to bend the knees, bend the knees. Draw your pubic bone back, slide your front ribs in, lift up through the inner armpits, and make sure your ears are in line with your shoulders. And then just take a couple of breaths, maybe straighten the legs, maybe not. Great. And we're going to try our planky pose again. So keeping your feet rooted, start from the base of your tailbone. Curl your tailbone down towards your feet as you ripple and roll your spine forward into a plank pose. So your spine is still long. And then you'll notice when you get there, if your hands are too narrow, widen your hands. Awesome. And you're just going to pause here. And some of you will stay here. Some of you will lift your heels again and lower your heels. And again, we're really focusing on drawing our front ribs into our back body. There's like this line of connection that happens, this sense of engagement in the core. Awesome sauce. Last time, maybe lifting and lowering the heels. And then when you're ready, you go back to your L dog shape at the wall, pushing the wall away, sending your pelvis and pubic bone back, and just pausing and breathing. All right. Start to walk your feet towards the wall, walk your spine up to vertical. Cool. Turn around and face away from the wall. Grab your blocks, some of you. You might just want them there to begin with, and we'll put them about maybe a foot away from your face. Now, this is really dependent upon how open you think your hamstrings are. If you're like, yeah, I am a Barbie Gumby chick, fantastic. You might bring your butt all the way to the wall and stay there. And then you might, bring your heels all the way to the wall and stay there. If you're like, Jessica, that's unattainable for anybody, you're going to walk your heels forward about 2 to 3 inches. Your butt can still rest on the wall. Awesome. Now from here, we're just going to start to hinge at our hips. So your hands might be on your hips. And you're going to notice that your butt's pressing into the wall. And at some point, you're like, yeah, that's precarious. I'm going to fall off a cliff. There are my blocks. And the blocks can catch your hands. And you'll eventually make your way into an Uttanasana forward fold. Now, you'll notice that once you get down here, the wall is supporting your tuchus, which is really kind of nice, actually. And then at some point, you might be like, well, what would I do if I didn't have the support? And from that, you'll actually have to lean your weight. You'll have to trust a little bit more to shift your weight forward. So the weight comes away from the wall, but then you notice you find a different sense of balance in your feet. We're always doing the best that we can with what we know, with what we have. And you just notice how that actually feels or it settles into the body somatically in the shape. And you just pause and you breathe. Nice work. All right. Now, this next one, if your hands are on your blocks, mindfully take your blocks off to the right and the left of your mat. And then you're going to start to crawl your hands forward and crawl your feet back. So now your heels are on the wall. Oh, I keep hitting that little door stopper. And your hands are on the mat. And now we're in our downward facing dog. Huzzah, we found it. And you're here and you can root your heels down into the baseboards and down into the floor. You can push your hands down and forward and isometrically draw them back towards your heels. And just notice that length in your spine as the front ribs pull into the back body and your head is in line or ears are in line with your arms. You can stay here for 3 more breaths. And then when you're ready to come out of this, you'll come to hands and knees. Nice work, people. Those looked really good. Ha. All right. From hands and knees, let's go ahead and walk our knees, ankles, and shins together. No rest for the weary. Curl both sets of toes under and walk yourself back to everyone's favorite pose to hate, toe squat. And then once you're there, go ahead and make sure your pinky toes have joined the group and they're happy as a clam. And you might stay here and just breathe. You can choose to reach your right arm up, bend your right elbow, grab your right elbow with your left hand, and maybe take that tricep stretch. We've done quite a few of these, so maybe you don't necessarily need that, but you just pause and you breathe. Actually, we haven't. We've done one. I'm sorry, I misspoke. And then when you're ready, you'll go ahead and reach up through the left arm, reach up through the right, and switch sides, maybe bending the left elbow, grabbing the left elbow with the right hand, pressing the left elbow to the left, drawing it to the right, and again, just pausing and breathing. All right. Very gently release that. Reach up through the right arm, reach up through the left, come forward, bring the tops of the feet to the floor, pitter patter your toes if you'd like, having a happy little temper tantrum. And then conversely, you can shift your weight forward and maybe lift one end or both knees up and away from the mat. Awesome sauce. Cool. And I guess before we do anything further, let's go ahead and lower our forearms onto the mat. Walk your knees back so they're underneath your shoulders. And I want you to just take a couple of cats and cows here. So we haven't really done a lot to mobilize the spine in terms of fluidity and flexion and extension. Everything we've done so far has been pretty static. And so just notice how this feels as you move in and out of spinal extension and spinal flexion. Okay, and then once you feel neutral or balance between that, you'll go ahead and come to neutral. Now I want you to army crawl your elbows forward a little further. Yep, and that's sort of awkward. All right, and then I want you to curl, ugh, I keep hitting that door stopper. Curl your toes under beneath you, and then you'll crawl your elbows forward just a little further. And you're gonna find yourself trying to find one long line from your head, through your shoulders, through your knees, and you might just stay here. You might start to reach back through your heels and straighten your legs and find yourself in forearm plank. And we'll pause here and we'll breathe for 3. We'll push down into our elbows and lift up through our happy armpits for 2. We'll see if we can lengthen our tailbone back towards our feet for 1. And then when you're ready, you'll lower your knees down. You'll bring your hands to your mat and you'll take a standard cat and cow and just notice how that feels. You just pause and you breathe. And you notice what you notice. And if your cats and cows want to be something more organic, by all means, give yourself permission to do that. We're always doing the best that we can with what we know. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and come to neutral, come to stillness, and then turn around and face the wall. We're just going to see how this goes for us today. So the first thing we want to do is just see how our spines are open and how our L shape is working, because that'll impact what's going to happen next. So with your feet, your heels really pushing into the wall, let's see if we can sit on top of our sit bones. If you're like, yeah, I want to move some flesh from my sit bones, go ahead and move some flesh from underneath your sit bones. And then you're going to reach your arms forward. Turn your palms to face in, and like you're squeezing a beach ball, I want you to draw your front ribs in and back, reach your arms forward and up, and see how much you can bring your arms in line with your ears. Again, you're rooting down through your sit bones, which makes it feel, for me at least, like I'm arching my low back just a smidge as I'm reaching up through my arms, pushing forward through my heels. Awesome sauce. All right, when you're ready, go ahead and lower the hands down. Okay, so we're going to take that shape, but now we're going to make it arm weight bearing. So some of you might want to take, while you're here, one of your blocks and put it just outside your hips so you know where your hips are. And then you're going to turn around and put your hands where your blocks / where your hips were. Now, if you noticed that doing that, your back rounded a little bit, you might choose to walk your hands forward a little bit of where you placed your block. If, on the other hand, you're like, yeah, my spine was pretty straight, you'll keep your hands in line with your block. The closer your hands are to the wall, the harder this becomes. So you choose that for you. For all of us, let's go ahead and curl our toes under. And then you're going to push your hands down and forward. Well, let me step back. Make sure your hands are shoulder distance apart. Now, push your hands down and forward, lift your hips up and back, and find yourself in a downward facing dog. At this point, we should feel the balls of our feet are pressing into the mat. The soles of our feet are pressing into the wall. Some of you will stay right here and just keep your knees super duper bent and find that long, straight spine. Some of you will walk one heel in line with that sit bone and then walk the other heel in line with its sit bone. And then you'll push the floor away. You'll draw your front ribs in and back, and maybe you'll press the wall away to find your L dog. And you just pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. Awesome. And then when you're ready to come down, you come down and you'll rest in child's pose. And you'll just take 3 to 5 breaths there. 3 to 5 breaths. It's been a long time since we've been inverted. So you just notice what you notice. That looks good, Laura. Push down through your hands evenly. Yep. Awesome sauce. All right. And then when you're ready, you come down and rest in child's pose. And then if you just got to child's pose, take a little bit of time. And then let's come up to sit. How did that feel? Do we want to try that again, or you're like, I'm done? One more time, or we're done? I don't know what that sign language means, Sandy. One more time. Okay. All right. So let's give it a shot one more time. If you're like, Jessica, I don't want to do that, no worries. You can hang out in child's pose or do legs up the wall. We'll meet there all in a moment. So if you're going to try L dog once again, put your hands down onto the mat, shoulder distance apart, and notice how close they are to your blocks. And then from there, curl your toes under, walk your feet back so your feet are flush against the wall. Push your hands down and forward, lift your hips up and back. So now balls of the feet are on the wall, soles of the feet are on the wall, toes are on the floor. And then one at a time, you'll step one foot up so that heel is in line with your sit bone. And then the other one. Sandy, come down for me. Walk your hands back about 2 inches. Nope, okay, that's fair. That looks good, Laura. Laura, push down into your right hand a little bit more. Yep. Yeah, and when you're ready to come down, you come down. Go back to child's pose, take a couple of breaths. All right. And then when you're ready, let's come up to sit. I want to try 2 more things, but before I do, I want to check in. How are your knees, quads, ankles, things feeling? Okay. So this one we haven't done, I want to say, in almost 5 years. So we're going to start by taking our blanket. So this is in its standard quarter fold. We'll fold it over again like this. Some of you will keep it exactly like this. Some of you will choose to fold it again. It really depends upon how your knees feel. You're going to bring your blanket flush against the wall. And then I like to slide mine forward about, I don't know, half an inch to an inch. And then we'll bring our blocks on the highest setting at the top of our space. So I'm going to demo and then you guys decide how you want to enter this. There are plenty of ways that you can get into this shape. The first one is to just start in hands and knees, and you can slide one leg back and then you can bring the other foot forward. And again, the blocks help. And if you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous, I'm not getting in that way, no worries. The other option is to start from standing. You have your hands on your blocks, you bend one knee, you slide it down, and suddenly you're already there. So you choose the route that feels like it is the best option for you to enter that shape. Awesome sauce. And then once you find yourself here, again, hands are on the blocks. Blocks are on the highest setting is generally a good idea. And you can push down into your front foot. And you might just notice that you have a sensation happening across your back quad. And you're like, yep, I'm staying right here. This is fantastic. I can't imagine anything being more painful than this. And so, if that's your choice, by all means, please stay there. I do not encourage you to go anywhere that you're not going to be happy about. Some of you might choose to start to walk your pelvis back towards your foot, and then you can walk your spine up. And then maybe you might notice that if you've done that, you might want to adjust your front foot so you can walk it back a little bit more. And then that allows you to drop your tailbone down and then maybe start to work on drawing your front ribs in and back. And again, more is not better. So you pick which option is best for you and you stay there and you breathe. Awesome sauce. And when you are ready to come out of this, you mindfully come out of this the best way that you can. So if you're down, I personally like to sort of bring one knee down, so the front knee down, turn to the side and step the other foot in. It feels like it's more safe on my body. You choose what works best for you. And then you'll try the other side. So however you entered it, you try the opposite side. Da, da, da. And again, you might stay with hands on the blocks, staying forward in that Anjaneyasana position. You might just decide, hey, I've got a little bit more space or capacity today. Maybe I can go further back. And it's one of those things, this changes on a day by day basis. So sometimes it's a great option, sometimes it's not, and that's totally fine either way. Yep, and you just pause and you breathe wherever you're at. If you're more upright, continue to allow the tailbone to sort of drop towards the floor so you feel a stretch across the belly of your quadricep. And then when you're ready to come out, you come out. Again, I like to step the front foot a little closer to the back foot, turn to the side, and step the back knee down to meet it. Great. Okay. You've got all of that. You're going to make your way onto your backs. You're going to be pretty close to the wall. You can take your props and stuff off the wall. And the first thing I'd like you to do is just notice. So for me, I notice that if I bend my knees and put my feet on the wall, that's a pretty good distance for me to know where to start. And then I can just go ahead and lay my torso down. That was clear as mud, wasn't it, Sandy? Yep, okay. So Sandy, you can probably lay down right there. You should be good. Now, the first thing that you'll do is once you find yourself down on your back, some of you will stay right here. Some of you might start to walk your feet up the wall, and you'll find yourself sort of in that chair pose that we started in. And sometimes this just feels really nice. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not having to do any of the work of what I was doing before. My back feels nice, my feet feel nice. And you're like, this is fantastic. Some of you might start to walk your feet up a little bit. You're just trying to find a spot that feels good for you where you're not working too hard. but you feel like your spine settle into its natural, normal curves. And if you're like, yeah, Jessica, this is absolutely nothing, I don't feel a thing, you might start to reach one foot up to the sky and then the other. And suddenly you find yourself in Viparita Karani with your butt still on the floor. And so you choose the adventure that feels best for you. And again, we're always doing the best that we can with what we know. And I think sometimes if we can remember to remind ourselves of that fact, it might allow us to be a little bit gentler when things don't necessarily go the way we want, or maybe when we make a choice that didn't feel in a total alignment with our values. It gives us compassion, it gives us grace. And it seems that when we can give that to ourselves, it makes us much more able to give that authentically to somebody else, particularly when they too might not feel like they're worthy of it. All right, so as you're here, you might choose to continue to stay here in whichever version you're at. Some of you might be like, yeah, I am done with this. And if that's the case, you might start to walk your feet back to the wall if they were up, and then walk the feet down to the floor. Once the feet are on the floor, if they're on the floor, go ahead and separate your feet to outer hip distance apart and let your knees fall in towards each other. If you're still inverted, you stay there as long as feels comfortable for you. And those of you that have your feet on the floor, your knees will fall in towards each other. And you just take a couple of breaths here in this modified constructive rest. Awesome. All right. Those with your feet on the wall, again, you can choose to stay. Those of you with your feet on the floor, go ahead and walk your feet so they're hip distance apart. You're going to push down into your feet, lift your pelvis up, slide your butt over to the right, and then put the butt back down. And then allow both legs to fall over to the left. And we'll go ahead and stack them right on top of each other. Now from here, you might go ahead and reach your left arm out to the left, push down into the back of your head, inchworm your left shoulder over to the left, and then put your left shoulder back down. You might then bring the top or your left hand onto the top right thigh. You might cactus the right arm out. You might just open the right arm out into a T and maybe turn your gaze to the ceiling or maybe towards your right hand. But you'll just take a couple of breaths to pause and breathe here in this supine twist. Long, steady, smooth breaths. That's fun, smooth. All right. And then when you're ready to come out of this, if you're holding on with your left hand, gently release the left hand. Draw the feet back towards the mat. Recenter your pelvis underneath your shoulders and just take a moment to be still. Let everything settle back into place. And then when you're ready, you'll push through your feet, you'll lift your hips, you'll slide your butt to the left, you'll put your pelvis back down, and then allow your legs to fall over to the right. Go ahead and stack the knees right on top of each other if you can, and then push into your head. Lift your right shoulder, slide your right shoulder to the right. From there, the right hand might come to touch the top of the left thigh. Your gaze might come to the sky or maybe cascade over to the left hand. And again, you just take a couple of breaths to pause. And you take a couple of breaths to breathe. Nice work. And when you're ready to come out of that, again, you release the right hand. You'll draw the feet back to the floor. You'll re-square your pelvis underneath your shoulders. And then from here, you can straighten one leg at a time, and that'll tell you if you need to wiggle your body back away from the wall or if you're at a good distance. And you'll find yourself into your final resting pose. So if you need to inchworm your spine back, you do that. If you just want to roll over and lean back, you do that. But you'll find yourself into whatever your final resting pose is. Maybe it's Shavasana, maybe it's Supta Baddha Konasana, maybe you return the legs up the wall. Wherever you go, I would encourage you to set yourself up well. So if you want to cover yourself with blankets, do that. If you want to support yourself with props, do that. If you want to cover your torso with clothing, fantastic, do that. But set yourself up well. And then when you feel like you are supported, again, take in the sensations that you're experiencing on your right side versus your left side and see if you can find a sense of symmetry between the two sides. Bring your awareness into your body more deeply and notice if you can notice the pulsations of energy, the pulsations of prana, of your vitality. It might just be easier to just notice where energy easily moves or where it might feel a little bit constricted. And without trying to force or change anything, see if you can then just invite a sense of breath into that part. You'll stay here for the next few moments, just breathing into your body, wherever you feel sensation most needed or most active. And I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in. If there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape, please stay here. When you are ready to move on, allow movement to re-enter your body in whatever way feels comforting and nurturing to you. After you've taken a few breaths on your side, you'll make your way up to sit. And when you are vertical, I do encourage you to sit on something. Take the opportunity to remove any flesh from underneath your sit bones, or circle the shoulders, or circle the neck. And then plant your arms wherever they can rest, where your heart space will stay open. It seems that as we go into this part of the year and we're working on, trying to take better care of ourselves or attain a specific goal or whatever we've set our intention to be for the year, one of the biggest gifts that we can give to ourselves as well as others is a sense of compassion. Nothing ever goes according to plan. And the more that we can sort of, I don't want to say accept, but rather embrace that reality and be kind and gentle with ourselves for whatever ways we don't show up in the ways we'd wished, reminding ourselves that we're always doing the best that we can with what we know. I think it allows us to make any necessary changes in a much more satisfying way. So as you're here for these last few moments, last few breaths, I invite you to place a hand on the heart and then another hand on that hand. And just remind yourself, I'm always doing the best that I can with what I know, and so is everybody else. We'll go ahead and complete our practice with a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Go ahead and bring your hands to Heart Center Anjali Mudra. Really press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum and lift your sternum to your thumbs. Soften your chin just a little bit and then exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in through the nose. Audible exhale out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Draw your thumbs to your third eye. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. And draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open. The light, The breath, the awareness within me, honors and salutes the light, the breath, the awareness within each of you. Namaste.